13, I was left with nothing but a few clothes and a suitcase full of questions. My parents had walked out, abandoning me in the middle of a small, crowded train station, their voices fading as if I didn't exist. I remember gripping the handle of my bag, staring at the passing faces, wondering what I had done to deserve being erased from my own life. Fear mingled with confusion, and for the first time, I felt entirely alone in the world. It was then that my wealthy uncle appeared. He was nothing like my parents, calm, deliberate, and undeniably wealthy. When he saw me standing there, shivering and terrified, he didn't ask questions. He simply reached out, offering his hand, and a gentle, "Come with me, you'll be safe here." I remember the relief flooding through me, the warmth of a home I had never had before, and the promise of stability. Hey, if you enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the bell. Your support means everything and helps me keep creating. Thank you so much. The house was enormous, more like a mansion than a home, with marble floors and towering ceilings. I was overwhelmed, yet strangely comforted. My uncle treated me like family, though he was firm. Rules were strict, expectations high. I learned to be responsible, disciplined, and precise. I absorbed every lesson he imparted: financial literacy, negotiation, the subtle art of influence, without realizing that each one was a brick in a foundation for a life he couldn't yet imagine I would build. At first, I resented the distance he kept. His world was structured, rigid, and I longed for warmth and spontaneity. But over time, I understood his intention. He wanted me to survive, to thrive, to learn resilience in a way my parents never thought necessary. I kept my thoughts to myself, watched, and learned. There was a quiet fire growing inside me, a determination that one day I would not just survive, but rise. I knew I had to honor this second chance, this rare gift of guidance, even if it meant carrying a lifetime of silent ambition beneath the surface. I never told anyone how much it hurt when my parents abandoned me, but every day I carried that absence with me, using it, shaping it as the engine for everything I was determined to become. And I didn't realize it yet, but 15 years later, that same determination would allow me to confront the very people who had left me behind and change the balance of our family forever. The years with my uncle became a lesson in contrasts. He was wealthy, yes, but his wealth came with precision and expectation. Every choice, every move, every word I spoke was observed, not to punish, but to teach. I learned the language of influence, how money moves, how decisions ripple across unseen networks, and how reputation is built quietly, deliberately. At first, I absorbed it all like a sponge, my teenage mind awash with awe and confusion. But over time, I began to recognize the power I could wield if I mastered it. School was different. I had friends, but I never let anyone close enough to know the raw fear that had once gripped me at the station. Instead, I cultivated discipline, curiosity, and skill, excelling academically and socially, always careful to keep my personal life private. My uncle noticed, approving quietly. "You're learning control," he'd say, his eyes calm but penetrating, as if he could see the spark I was nurturing beneath my composed exterior. By my late teens, I had learned to navigate both worlds, the elite society my uncle moved in and the harsher reality I came from. I studied business, finance, and law, knowing instinctively that knowledge would be my weapon. I learned that people underestimate those who seem quiet, timid, or unassuming, and I began to test it. I learned to listen, to observe, to wait, to let others reveal their weaknesses without realizing I was taking notes, cataloging every misstep. And then came the day I realized that my parents, the ones who had abandoned me, had no idea who I was becoming. I discovered through a chance encounter that they had fallen on difficult times, mismanaged finances, failed ventures, overconfidence, and were scrambling, still unaware that I had not only survived without them, but had been building something far beyond their imagination. I kept my distance. I didn't rush to confront or punish. I knew the power of timing. I watched quietly as they floundered, as my sister, always spoiled, always coddled, continued to expect that life would hand her everything effortlessly. And I waited. Every dinner I overheard, every passing conversation, every tiny betrayal or arrogance, I stored it all in memory. Not for revenge, at least not yet, but for understanding the terrain. By my late 20s, I had become unrecognizable, not just to them, but even to people who had known me as a quiet, timid child. I had learned to wield wealth, strategy, and influence with precision. I had built investments, acquired properties, and quietly earned respect in circles they would never suspect I could enter. I had friends in positions of power, mentors who valued my intellect, and a network that would bend in my direction if I asked. And then the opportunity arrived. A minor legal matter, a chance conversation at a board meeting, a disclosure of assets. They were all so careless, so arrogant in their assumptions that I could step in without warning. 15 years after being abandoned, the same parents who had left me in a station, who had told me I was nothing, would be forced to confront the reality that I had grown far beyond them, that I had not only survived, but thrived. The stage was set. The timing was perfect, and I knew exactly what I would do next. It wasn't about revenge in the way they imagined. It was about exposing the truth, reclaiming what had been dismissed, and showing them that the child they thought powerless had been quietly building an empire beneath their noses. Their arrogance had left them blind. My preparation had made me unstoppable. And as I finally stepped forward, 15 years after the night I was abandoned, I felt nothing but calm certainty. I had been underestimated, overlooked, dismissed, and now the moment had come to show exactly what I had become. The day I chose to step into their world was quiet, deliberate. I didn't storm in or yell. I let presence do the work. My parents, my sister, the people who had abandoned and belittled me, never suspected I had grown into someone untouchable. Their arrogance, their assumption that I was still powerless, had blinded them completely. I entered my father's office first, calm, composed, carrying only a folder with documents they would need to see. His eyes widened, almost immediately, recognition and confusion battling across his face. My mother froze, gripping her purse like a shield, while my sister's jaw slackened, disbelief painted across her features. "I think it's time you understand something," I said, my voice even, steady. "Everything you underestimated in me, every moment you believed I was nothing, was the exact reason I've arrived here today." I handed them the documents, proof of investments, property acquisitions, and holdings they had assumed were beyond my reach. Their faces drained of color as realization dawned. The wealth I had quietly amassed, the influence I commanded, every network I had built, they were all consequences of the life I had lived without them, yet with the lessons my uncle had taught me. You believed abandoning me would make me weak. You assumed dismissing me would keep me small. I continued, letting the weight of each word land. You failed to see that the child you discarded would learn, adapt, and rise beyond anything you ever imagined.